like being in the British Museum, I think is an amazing thing for all of us because all the good design from Egyptology and stuff happened or is represented upstairs. So it's a big, big day. Hey, listen, we're going to start with an experiment. So I want everybody in the room to get their mobile phone out. No excuses. Everybody has a mobile phone. If you don't have a mobile phone, well done. Unlock it. Everybody's phone's unlocked. Hand it to the person next to you. No way. No way. Does everybody have somebody else's mobile phone? Does everyone have somebody else's mobile phone? Yeah? You have 60 seconds to snoop through the phone in your hand. I'm serious. 60 seconds. Okay, all right, guys. Everybody. Give the phone back, give the phone back. It's a good game, that one. It's a good game, that one. So there's a really serious note to what we've just done. Is your reaction to what we've just done? Like, holy fuck! The mental model that we've created in the last 10 years with technology and the screens that we create as designers on that little device, the way that you reacted right then is, I think, a very telling thing. How did you feel? Just shout out a word. Embarrassed. Sorry, what was that? Panic. Inquisitive. Very good. Uneasy. Okay, what we've just experienced are not good things, right? They are emotions that actually are from anxiety, from fear, the kind of psychological reactions to technology that are completely irrational. And really, it's just to start my presentation by demonstrating to you that we need to think about design in a slightly different way. My career started in kind of 95, 96. Something really profound happened to me in 2003, though, that really made me stop and change the way that I think of design. In 2003, I had a breakdown. In 2003, I discovered I was bipolar. And in 2003, everything completely changed for me. I went from designing advertising and websites and all the stuff that we used to do to questioning absolutely everything. And I did the only thing that a good designer does in these situations is I designed the shit out of my problem. I did not let it beat me. I sat down, and for the last 10, 15 years, I've been trying to find some of the answers to what was going on in my head and design solutions for some of those problems. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the solutions to those problems over the next 15 minutes or so. We did this in the last 10 years, and this is crazy stuff right here. So in the App Store at the moment, there are 1.5 million downloads. In fact, I think this is even out of date now. This is a stat from the start of the year. 1.5 million apps in the Apple App Store. This is not Android, just Apple. What do we got? 75 billion downloads. And some of those are repetitions, some of those are repeat downloads. 75 billion downloads of interactive things that have been designed. And what we've done is we've flooded the market with these things with really very little comprehension as to what those things might be doing inside people's heads and inside people's minds. It is absolutely fascinating, and it's a pleasure to be part of the world that creates this kind of mass movement in the last 10 years. Absolute joy. There's something else that is really important is of the 75 million downloads, the 1.5 million apps in the App Store, only 0.5% of those, on average, are opened more than once a week. So only 7,500 of those 1.5 are considered habitual, things that people open kind of religiously. And again, these are telling numbers when you start to think about it. We're flooding the market with stuff. Not that many of them stick. And so what we have to do is kind of consider, of the 7,500, you want your product to be in that number. You want your design to be part of that number. And actually, you need to start thinking about the reasons why 7,500 of 1.5 million are downloaded and used regularly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few principles that will get you into that 7,500. is the theory. There's something else that we've demonstrated in the experiment that I did like 5 minutes ago. Apps and services and digital are creating some very strange reactions in people. Psychologically, we have just screwed with people on a mass scale. Things like the fear of missing out, which is a term I loathe as a kind of like hashtag term, but it's a really important thing. The fear of missing out is actually an emotion. It's been created by digital, like seriously. We designed it. All of us are responsible for the design of some of these things. And the fear of missing out is really something irrational that's linked to happiness. And we've been doing a lot of work with the NHS exploring how various emotions have physical effects on people as well. So if happiness is a reaction to well-being, and well-being is directly linked to your physical health, then the things that we are designing that inspire unhappiness or fear or uncertainty or anxiety are having physical effects on us. And it sounds a little bit melodramatic, but the reaction that you gave in the auditorium all of 5 minutes ago is not just a mental one, that's a physical reaction. You laughed, you guffawed, you expelled air, you panicked. Somebody said the word panic. You panicked. That's a physical reaction to digital. It's quite unbelievable. It's quite amazing. I'm not a neuroscientist, but we are going to have a very quick look through the brain, and I'm going to tell you why we all have a hippo inside us. So the brain really has three main parts. The neocortex, which is the bit that stops us falling over. It deals with motor commands. It's the bit that kind of puts all of the gestures and things that we do together to make us human. There's the reptilian part of the brain, which is the oldest part of the brain. Deals with fight and flight, deals with gut instinct, if you like. And then there's the really good part of the brain, the limbic section. Now, inside the limbic section are a whole load of really complicated names that I cannot pronounce because I'm dyslexic. But it's a wonderful part of the brain, and it's actually the designer's tool. This part of the brain is the designer's tool. The very, very important part of the limbic section is the hippocampus, right? The hippo. So the hippo is the part of the brain that gets bigger and smaller when you're happy or sad. So the hippocampus is directly linked to your well-being and your happiness. People who have Alzheimer's, their hippocampus shrinks. It's a symptom of Alzheimer's. People who have depression, people who are bipolar like me, we have a smaller hippocampus. The hippocampus shrinks, and what happens is we retain less memory. It stops us remembering things. It stops us remembering what we were doing 2 weeks ago. So it's a very serious part of the brain, and I'm very much in love with my hippo, and I've been training it for the last 10 years to try and get bigger, and there are ways of doing that. So what we did is we went off to Stanford, and we had a chat with some very clever people in Stanford, and we went to Oxford, and we spoke to some neuroscientists in Oxford, and we've been working with Roehampton Institute of Psychotherapy. And between the bunch of us, some wacky designers in a company called Nexus, and some crazy social scientists in the US, and some people in Oxford, and all over the place, we've got an equation for happiness. And what we've done is we've pulled this in from lots of different sources and lots of clever people. And the equation for happiness for all of us is very, very simple. 50% of your happiness is down to your biological set point. This is the piece that we all have inside us that gets us back to our center. You can't really change it. It's just the way that we are, and we shouldn't really try and change it either. It's what makes us us. And so everybody, that's 50% of what makes you happier, the biological things that you cannot change, chemicals. Conditions of living actually only make up 10% of your happiness. Now, by conditions of living, what we worked out was that's buying stuff. So when you go down to the shops and you buy something to make yourself feel better, it's a very, very short shelf life of happiness. For a few days, you feel like you've got something new, you've coveted it for a while, it makes you happy, but it goes away. And it doesn't really do a huge amount other than collect. And so our houses are full of stuff. And all that stuff actually only makes up for 10% of what you have. But the really important part, the 40% that we can influence, is problem solving. So what we discovered was that problem solving, human beings, when they solve problems, makes you happier. And these are things that we can do all the time. And as designers, we can design problems to solve or help people solve problems that they have. And so we should be focusing our attention as designers on growing the hippocampus by helping people solve problems. This is an actual fact. It's not something that we've made up. 40% of what we can do for people will make them happier. There are two types of problem solving: linear problem solving and non-linear problem solving. Linear problem solving designs are things that are easy to do. They're frictionless interactions, frictionless pieces of design. These are the left, rights, up, downs, A, B's decisions that we design for people. This is crap like Tinder, where you're basically swiping that way and that way. The really important design that we should be doing is non-linear problem solving. Non-linear problem solving is analytical. Non-linear problem solving are creative challenges that we give people. These are the things that make people stop, think, analyze, assess, and solve a problem that's not like a millisecond of interaction. It's a kind of minute of interaction. And so what we can do is we can use non-linear problems to grow the hippocampus, proven by bus drivers and taxi drivers. There was a study done 18 months ago. Bus drivers have a smaller hippocampus than taxi drivers. Why do bus drivers have a smaller hippocampus than taxi drivers? They solve linear problems every day. They drive the same route. And they change it around occasionally, but by and large, they're on the 37 route and they go backwards and forwards every day. Taxi drivers have a bigger hippocampus because they are solving non-linear problems. They're making up their own adventure as they go. Probably not Uber drivers because they follow sat-nav. That's quite linear. But your black cabbies have a much bigger hippocampus. Statistically, when they were all questioned, well, not all of them, when a bunch of them were interviewed and questioned, they're all happier as well. How you know, apart from 2 a.m. vomiting in the back of their cab, they're not happy with you. You go and get a black cab in London now, you're going to have a good chat with somebody. They are happy people. They have bigger hippocampuses. The other thing that we've done over the last 6 months is we looked at 262 of the 7,500 apps and services that we identified, spoke to 6,640 people via questionnaires online. It's a big genre, a big group of genres in that 750, right? It's not like one type, it's not just games, it's all sorts in there. And what we discovered was that people that were using these 7,500 on a regular basis were generally much happier, but they were also solving non-linear problems. Statistically, within that 7,500, people are habitually using apps and services that are non-linear in nature. Which again is really fascinating when you think about it. Like it's not just a direct link to frictionless design, it's actually a direct link to complicated design. People want to do complicated problem solving and they're going back to it regularly. So we've boiled down the main points, the main design principles that we found from the 750 that we looked at, or the 365 or whatever it was. And this is also a framework that's been designed by my own adventure, Gonzo style, over the last 10 years or so, looking at the things that were going wrong in my head and trying to work out how to fix them. So we've designed a framework called Big Hippo. It takes a huge amount of principles from lots of different areas, and some of it will be very familiar. And the idea of the Big Hippo framework is if you apply it to some of the design challenges that you're doing for your clients and for your customers, you will start to inspire happiness. It will start to grow the hippocampus. We want to basically, happiness by design is a metric that what we want to do as a company is basically give to our clients. It can be a CSR initiative if they want quantification of it. Go ask your customers if they were happier after using your service. At the very core of the Big Hippo framework is an old behavioural science model that we've adapted ever so slightly called SCARF. SCARF is a great model, and I'll treat and tweet you to some links afterwards so you can go swat up on it. SCARF is really about status, certainty, autonomy, retrospect, and fairness. Now, status really deals with letting people know where they fit into the overall piece of design. So they want to know whether they're doing well or they're doing badly, or they want encouragement, right? So you have to show people the status, where they are. It's the good old-fashioned breadcrumb trail. You know where you are at any given point. It's a really simple principle, and it's something that as usability people we've been using for years, but really try and elevate it in some of the design work that you're doing. Certainty. Everybody needs to know, the brain needs to know that what it's doing is not going to trick it. It needs to know that it's not going to fail. And so giving people a certainty of an outcome is incredibly important when you set them down a path, when you set them on a mission to complete something. Autonomy. So do not handhold people. This is this non-linear principle again. If you spoon feed it to people, then they just do it with their eyes closed, and design suddenly becomes wallpaper. And so autonomy, while they're doing something, giving them the ability to solve a problem on their own, is incredibly important. Now, the R, we changed from relatedness in the old model to the new model, in this model, retrospect. Retrospect is an incredibly potent design tool. Retrospect is something that we should all be doing as designers, and we should be designing into our products. Retrospect makes you look over your shoulder and see things as they were several months ago, several years ago. It also lights up a whole bunch of different parts of the brain that looking forward does not light up. So retrospect, as you're thinking about something you were doing yesterday, evokes other emotions. It evokes smell, it evokes images, it evokes visions of where you were and what you were doing, who you were with. So retrospect is really a designer's, in my book anyway, a designer's most potent tool, and you need to start using it when you're communicating with people on an interface. And fairness. So everybody needs to know that what they're doing is fair, true, and you're not trying to spoof them. It's on your terms. Go get it, tiger. Surrounding our scarf model, these are the three big areas, right? So the hippo loves to learn. The hippo loves to learn. The hippo likes to have fun, and the hippo likes to connect. If you can take these three principles and boil them down into functions, and I'm going to give you some examples, what you will do is you will start to create very, very happy hippos. The hippocampus wants to learn, it wants to have fun, and it wants to connect with other people. Learning. Learning is something that we're all very good at as designers. We are designing tools every day, design tools that help people get better and learn. Back to the point that was made earlier about copywriters. Copywriters are my new favorite design aid. Copywriters are unbelievable people. Go back to your various businesses and get your copywriters to swat up on Socratic questioning. Socratic questioning is really a counselor's tool. It's really a teacher's tool. And Socratic questions, as they're posed to people, make you stop and evaluate and assess your situation. They do not give you the answer. If you ask me, how are you today? I would say something like, well, you tell me, how are you feeling? And they're incredibly frustrating, right? But what they do is they get you to inflect and reflect. And so Socratic questioning in your design work, your copywriting, is incredibly important. Challenges, everybody needs to solve a challenge. So again, this comes back to some of the basic principles of gamification, which is a word that I hate, but in there somewhere is a brilliant, brilliant idea, which is let people solve challenges and let people solve things. Social, so connections. Everybody wants to connect, right? Everybody has it's a basic human condition. You want to connect to people. You want to make sure that you have a sense of belonging. You want to be part of a herd. That's what the hippo likes to do. The hippo likes to connect to other people. It likes to see a connection to other people. It likes to know that where you are in the world is related to other people. Am I better than them? Am I worse than them? Am I on par with them? Is it parity? And so connection to other people is really important. And again, I think this is the reason that things like social media have become so addictive, and everybody's so exposing on social media. They're connecting to other people. So there's the basic human condition of connection. And the hippo likes to have fun. So the hippo likes to have fun. Again, this is pretty obvious. And again, there's some things, and there's a punchline coming up in a minute, which you may not be expecting, because these three big principles, these three big buckets of what makes the hippo bigger and smaller, kind of obvious, right? Everyone likes to have fun. Everybody likes to solve a challenge, enjoy it. Variety, though, is the big thing. So shake it up. You absolutely have to shake it up. I have a 2-year-old daughter. She opens the fridge door all the time. She is not opening the fridge door to watch the light going on and off. She is opening the fridge door to see what jelly or ice cream we've got in there, right? It's not the fridge door light going on and off. It's what's inside. It's the variety. And if I took out all the food and she just opened the door to look at the light, she'd soon get bored and move on to something else to break in our kitchen. And so it's about variety. The brain, the hippo, needs to be challenged the whole time. This almost goes against every basic principle of usability where we create familiarity, right? The basic principles of usability are create familiarity, make sure people know where they are. Actually, those are not necessarily good principles sometimes. Creating things that make people stop, assess, go, whoa, that's changed, not necessarily a bad thing. Every big website redesign I've ever worked on, for about 2 weeks, people whinge about it. The BBC is a great example. People complain about it. They go, that stinks, you've changed it, it's not familiar. Within 4 weeks, they're using it as normal and all is good. And that uncomfortable situation that you create by changing a design pattern can be good for the brain. It's incredibly important that we do not create a world of just kind of flat design that's familiar the whole time. And I think as smart designers, we know when to use and when not to use these kind of patterns. The big one, right? This is the anti-digital in me. The piece of research that we did was that we need to use, for the hippocampus to grow bigger, for people to be happier, for the brain to feel more engaged, we need to use digital to drive people offline. We need to drive people down to the street, down to the shops, down to their friend's house, down to the pub, using digital. And all of the apps and the services that we assessed, the ones that got people out and about were the ones that people felt happiest with. And so your metric for happiness is infinitely raised and made bigger by getting people out of their seats and getting them out and about. There's a guy called Bo Lotto that works at UCH just up the road from here. He's an amazing neuroscientist. He has a very obviously termed company called Lotto Labs, Ego. He's a wonderful man, and he's been creating apps and services using augmented reality and various other things that get people offline. He's basically hiding messages in random places around the city, and you have to use your phone to go and find the message to unlock it using augmented reality. And the buzz that people are getting, the actual physical buzz that people are getting, is immeasurably good. So that kind of stuff we have to be doing, and it's a cracking world that we live in right now, where omnichannel has just become a big buzzword. It's not just a buzzword. It means we're joining up different channels. One of those channels is offline. So use digital to drive people into Argos. That's the big trick to this one. Don't let people just sit on the sofa and order stuff. Get them down to the shops, get them out and about. Really, really big. And finally, the really important thing is the nexus of these three things combined creates a very happy hippo. One of those things, or two of those things on their own, creates a certain amount of happiness. If you can get the three R's right, if you can get them all related to each other, if you can make sure that you have readiness, reciprocity, which is a word I can never pronounce, and reputation built into the model, so that you use those things to drive you round the three parts of the design process, you're going to create very happy hippos. And that's why this model is similar, familiar components, but with new thinking splattered over the top. So let me just leave you with this thought. What your design needs to do to encourage people like me to be happier, to create happy people from unhappy people, to reverse the effects of hippocampal atrophy. And I am saying right here, right now, that you can reverse the effects of hippocampal atrophy. So if you design things in a considered way, using principles like this, you can make unhappy people happy. You can actually use this as a therapeutic framework to start making people, the 1 in 5 of us that have things like bipolar, happier by design. So design needs to be involving. It needs to have, you need to let people have fun. You need to exercise their social instincts offline and in a non-linear way. If you can do those things, you are going to create very happy people. Thank you. Questions?
That was brilliant. Right, we have time for a few questions.
I hate this bit.
Gentleman there.
Firstly, great talk. I thought that was really good.
Thank you.
I suppose, do you really have more focus on where that framework or template should be used? So I work quite heavily with sales funnel, online sales. So when you talked about was it autonomy and retrospective sort of aspects of that, of the template, and the familiarity aspect and things like iPlayer, and you mentioned things like augmented reality, none of that directly relates to the industries that I work in. Yep. So where do you think this fits in terms of online sales?
Well, I think a good designer knows which picks of people's frameworks to pick and choose from. What we're saying is holistically, there's a good shopping basket of things for you to dive in and out of, right? What I think is really important is that the philosophical value of what we're saying is something that you can take into any business. Do not design for the sake of design things in a way that you think might make the end user happier, right? And so drawing out some of the key principles and then bringing them into businesses is really important. One thing that we've not tried to do as a business is I'll tell you about something in a minute, but what we're trying to do is embed these experience principles, these design principles, into existing services. So one of our big clients is a bank, right? And we're trying to overlay these principles on top of online banking. Why? Because people are using it every day. And mobile banking, people are pulling out their phones every day. So bringing some of these principles into things that people are doing almost implicitly rather than explicitly are incredibly important. Now, the other big question that we get asked of big organizations is, who's going to fund this stuff? And we're like, you have a CSR team, right? You have a CSR team and you have a well-being team in most big organizations that are desperately trying to make a workforce happier. So applying some of these principles to intranets and things to make workforce happier, financial well-being is, depression in the workplace. If you can bring some of these principles to the people that are opening up their web browser every day and seeing an intranet page, as most big companies do, put some of this in that, make the workforce happy, and that goes down the line.
One final question. Anyone got another question? Okay, we're going to move on. Please put your hands together. Please, that was great.